Welcome to the Qualia Experience Podcast.
Good evening. I'm resident teacher Kelsang Dechok. That's exactly like I right. I'll give a little introduction about you. Kadampa Buddhist non and the resident teacher at Kadampa Meditation Center in Atlanta, Georgia. You have been practicing Kadampa Buddhism for over 20 years under the guidance of Venerable Geshe Kelsang. Yeah, so you're fortunate. Perfect. Throughout your work in the US and UK, you served in roles ranging from administration and upward to director of Kadampa publications here in the US. You were ordained in 2006 and appointed resident teacher in 2023. Just a little bio about you. I hope I got everything kind of consistent. Or if there's anything you wanted to add to it. That sounds pretty good. Okay, let's dive right in. Kadampa Buddhism was often described as modern Buddhism. Please define Kadampa, and in practical terms, how can Asian teachings help people navigate the chaos, pressure, and speed for modern life?
So Kadampa Buddhism is synonymous with modern Buddhism. Our teacher, Kelsang Dechok, came to the West. He came to England in the 70s, and he established Kadampa Buddhist centers around England, and eventually over to the US, and then finally to countries all around the world. And Buddhism that we're studying, practicing, sharing is essentially Buddhist teachings from when he taught back, over 2,500 years ago. Those ancient teachings are still very relevant today. And so Geshe Kelsang has given us a presentation that is accessible to the modern day person. And so we're taking Buddha's ancient teachings, but putting them into practice in our modern daily life and seeing results.
Okay. Making it fit the modern society. As society evolves, we need something that's compatible with the new way of life. And how do the students respond to these lessons? How are the students responding to it so far?
I mean, considering how Kadampa Buddhism is growing around the world, I'd say positively. I think that what people are finding is, these days people are dealing with so many different things like stress, very busy life, pressure, as you said, chaos in this modern world. So they're really looking for answers, how to navigate these difficulties. And even beyond that, even when things are going well, oftentimes there's a sense of lack, some emptiness. And so people are also looking for meaning. And I would say that he addressed so many different states of mind that we have, from anger to attachment, loneliness, anxiety, and all these things that modern people struggle with. He has given us an understanding of where they're coming from, how to root these out of our mind, address them in practical ways, and make the most meaning out of our life that's possible.
And I could categorize some of the things you mentioned as suffering. And the Kadampa teachings, it says that suffering comes from the mind. How can someone new to Buddhism as a whole test this for themselves, and how can pain, whether loss, disappointment, heartbreak, become a path to inner growth? How can they overcome any form of suffering?
So I think, first of all, when we're experiencing pain, oftentimes it's really easy to attribute it to whatever it is that's out there, whether it's our body that's in pain or our mind that's in pain, especially in the case where it's our mind that's in pain because of something, that we feel as we see or are experiencing out there, like in the case of heartbreak.
Yeah.
It's we had some relationship and something happened. There was a fracture. There was a breakup in that relationship, and so it can be very easy to attribute that pain in our minds to that because I loved this person so much. So there's so much love there, and now it's over. That can feel really painful. And Buddha talks about there's actually something that we need to dissect in our mind when it comes to a situation like that. So he says that there's love. Yeah. In all our relationships, for the most part, we all have some form of love.
Yeah.
But what we don't really understand that's often part of that love, maybe mixed in, is this mind of attachment. So there's like this sort of glue or sort of, I'd say like a grasping, like wanting somebody else. This person
is mine.
Is mine, yes. And they bring me the happiness that I seek. And so when that disappears, leaves our life, it's like, my source of happiness is gone.
Yeah.
And then we're in pain. And so Buddha's saying, it's not the love that's causing pain. Love is never a true cause of pain. It's actually only a source of happiness. It's the attachment. It's the attachment in our minds that causes the pain that we feel. And if we can uproot that attachment by identifying it.
First of all.
First of all, we have to identify it. Yeah.
We have to accept that it's there.
Exactly. Yeah, being honest with ourselves. And sometimes we don't even know it's there until something happens and we feel pain. And that's when we can say, I have some attachment. And then we can work on it. But as far as what is real love versus attachment, essentially, love is something that you feel you want the other person to be. Yeah. You're concerned with them. You're concerned with how they feel. You want them to be happy. If that means, and this is like probably worst case scenario, if that means they want to be with somebody else, if you really love them, there's no attachment. You can be okay with it.
This literally means probably 90% of relationships are not truly love then, because a lot of people don't accept that. They wouldn't want you to go be with somebody else. I know it's the denial part that we have to overcome first. And then we have to accept that what we have is more like control instead of love. To that, like you explained, love would be letting the person be free to make their own choices. I think that's the hard part. Yeah. So, how do we recognize this attachment?
Yeah.
Is there like a practice? How do we get the awakening to even realize that that what we claim to be love is not really love?
First is to start having a good look at our intentions and just think to ourselves, but what is it that I'm expecting with this relationship? How do I feel about this person? Am I happy because they're making me feel happy? When they get sick, am I disappointed because I feel bad for them, or because I'm disappointed that we can't go to Lori's or we can't hang out? And so I think just looking at that and being honest with ourselves, not beating ourselves up, because we all have this to some degree or another. It's just sort of our human nature. But that doesn't mean we're stuck with it. And that doesn't mean we can't have a pure love. We can't work towards being more and more loving and less attached. And, sometimes people are think, well, if I'm not attached, then, what kind of relationship will I have? What does that mean? Like, they're just going to leave me because,
Yeah.
So I think if we understand real love, say you have like true love and there's no attachment, what's that going to feel like? What's that going to feel like? That is going to feel amazing. Why? Because you're not like dependent on the actions of somebody else. You're just happy in yourself, and you're happy when you're happy if they're happy, and you're not expecting them to do something for you. I mean, of course, in relationships, we have to sort of set our expectations, and we don't want to let people walk all over. So it's not becoming like some doormat or something.
Yeah.
But there's really a strength, I think, and having pure love. And attachment makes us weak because it makes us very vulnerable in the sense that we can be hurt easily. We can become angry easily. We can become jealous easily. So recognizing that what's happening in our mind. And then instead replacing that attachment with, I want you to be happy, and just sort of shifting that focus from me. Yeah.
To them.
Like what I'm getting from this to what are you getting? How can I help you? How can I be beneficial to you? How can I make you happy?
Forget that. Conveniently leads us into the next question, which is connected. It's going to be about control. Modern culture pushes us to control outcomes, identities and relationships. Exactly what you were explaining. What is Kadampa's view on control? And how does letting go lead to more peace and freedom in their daily life? I think you already answered this well, but if you can touch on it again.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question and point about control, because you're right. It's like you look at social media and everything's curated, isn't it? To give this idea of, everything's perfect in our lives. And in reality, there's so much going on behind the scenes in everybody's life. And you just never really know.
Just good.
Exactly. Yeah. But the trouble with that is then, we see that and think, we compare and think, well, my life should be that way. And when it's not, then I can really get down on myself. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as control, I would say it comes down to one thing that we can control. And we can't do that immediately. That takes training, just like anything. So we can't control other people. We can't control what happens in the world. We try. We try very hard. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. We can't control the weather. It's like ultimately external things are very limited within our control. But what's completely within our control through training of our mind is how we feel on a day-to-day basis, what our attitude is, what our perspectives are, how we are approaching life, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world. And Buddhism teaches that. It teaches, how do we see the world? How do we see others? For example, when we're angry, when you're angry, what's the world like? You roll out of bed and in the morning, say you're really grumpy, get up on the wrong side of the bed, and you get up, and it's like you go to work, and on the way to work, everybody's like honking and cutting you off in traffic. And, it's like everybody else seems sort of grumpy and in the way, it's like the whole world is just like, and so, your day is basically that. You view the world as an uncomfortable, irritating place to be. On the other hand, like say some morning you wake up, look outside, the sun's shining, the birds are chirping. It's like
the flip side of it.
Yeah. And you go to work, and it's like, you're not too stressed, so you don't mind letting somebody in front of you in traffic. And everything's pretty good. You get into work, your coworkers are like, hey, how's it going? Happy. And it's just
So basically,
perspective. And it's not a matter of just switching it on and off. We have to have the tools to train, so we have, like Buddha teaches us how to think about others so that we can think of others in the best ways, So for example, we're stuck in traffic and somebody tries to cut us off. If we're not training our mind, what's going to happen is we're going to be like, honking the horn or just getting upset about it. But if we're training our mind, one of the things we can do, for example, is think, maybe that person is having a really bad day. Maybe they are in a rush for some reason. Maybe somebody in their family is in trouble and they're trying to get somewhere. And it's just like sort of putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes and sort of giving them the benefit of the doubt. Even if that's not true, it doesn't matter, because what happens is if we think in that way, then what does that do to us? That relaxes on, so like, that's okay. Yeah, go ahead,
But I just see that they close it. I'm shook. I'm joking.
Nice.
I've learned to be calm in such situations, and I try to give myself 1 minute to like a pause, to just breathe and let the person in. Because like you said, it could be an emergency. You don't know what they're going through. And you could be the person that makes their day. So, And that leads to compassion. Like going through stuff, like we just give an example in traffic, when you get to work, stress, work over a boss that makes you angry, and people get agitated, going back and forth online. These are all ways that can get us to that level of anger, when you just explained. What are two daily habits that make compassion more natural and effortless?
So I would say one of them is to recognize there's two truths. No one wants to suffer. And the second one is everyone wants to be happy. So recognizing these two truths, that you and I, everybody else, we all want the same thing. We want to be free from problems, free from suffering, and we want to be seeing that as a truth for every single person, and recognizing that person in front of us in line, the person cutting us off in traffic, our irritating coworker, our mean boss, whatever. It's like we see the humanity in them. It's like when we wake up, we're like, okay, I'm going to see this in people. I'm going to see that they just want to be happy and free from suffering like me. And just holding that truth in your heart throughout the day. Naturally, compassion comes, cherishing, caring for others comes, kindness. Because you treat them as you would want to be treated. Because you understand. Even though they may be acting in ways that you don't agree with, that ruffle your own feathers, if we get back to that basics, everyone just wants to be happy, everyone wants to be free from suffering, then, naturally, our good heart, sort of save us from going down that rabbit hole of anger or irritation or, Yeah, so everyone
wants to be happy. One is happy. One is happy.
One is to be free from suffering.
Free from suffering. Okay. So basically, see others as a reflection of yourself, and as an extension of yourself. Basically, being nice to them, because that would be being nice to yourself.
And also recognizing that, like we were talking about earlier, it's like we never know what people are going through. People may put on a happy face, but there may be trouble at home. There could be physical problems, health problems. You just never know.
Yeah.
And when you think about that passion, which is a wish for others to be free from their suffering.
But then we should all incorporate.
Yeah.
I try to. Yeah, that leads us to the season. We're in the holiday season, and many people feel overwhelmed, lonely, especially during this holiday period. This is something I experienced when I first migrated to the United States. I came alone. I was doing my early 20s. Before I started building my own community, having friends, having family come visit. Holidays were really, really rough. What practices can help someone stay grounded in this period, hopeful, and avoid harmful or impulsive decisions given they feel overwhelmed or feel very lonely in the holiday seasons?
Yeah, you're right. That is a difficult time of year, isn't it?
Yeah. They're social creatures.
Yeah. And there's sort of this expectation to be with others. And sometimes the circumstances just aren't there for that to be the case. And I think recognizing that, this is a Buddhist principle or understanding is in our karma, so that we all have different karma that ripens or manifests at any particular time. So, we'll go through some periods where, we don't have the conditions to have family and friends around. We haven't met people yet. So we just have this karma at the minute, this experience coming from the past. So karma is essentially, action. And so when you do an action, there's always going to be some result at some point in the future. Whatever we're experiencing now is karma, something that's happening due to previous actions. So sometimes we experience, loneliness, painful, anxious, difficult minds, especially during the holidays. This did happen. And I think understanding that, this is a karmic blip, so to speak, is helpful, because it's like, that means it's not going to last forever. Our karma is constantly changing. sometimes it can feel like, oh, it's going to be like this forever. And that can really bring us down because we feel stuck. But the way karma works is things are always changing,
I'm saying that goes at least too short.
Yeah, this too so fast. So I think keeping that in mind, and also keeping in mind that we can create what we want in the future now. So even though we may not be experiencing what we want now, can create the causes for that in the future in several ways. One is through a practice we call rejoicing, or basically being happy that others are getting to experience the things that we want to experience. It's kind of a big mind, but it has a big payoff. It's not always easy to be happy for others when you see, oh, well, they have a partner and they have a family, they've got it all. But naturally, through us rejoicing, for us seeing them and being like, I'm happy for them. That's wonderful. And because again, it comes back to they're just like me and they're experiencing some good karma right now. So I'm going to be happy for them. Because what will happen then is we're creating the karma or the causes to experience that in our future.
So you're creating your own future.
You're creating your own future. Yeah. I think also sometimes practice that's perfect for any time we're going through difficulties, and that's called patient acceptance. So it's much easier to say than to do. I will absolutely admit that. But when you do it, it works. Like when you do it from your heart, you do it honestly, earnestly.
Accepting your situation.
Yes. Like patiently accepting, not like gritting your teeth. Like, oh, this is horrible. But just being like, okay.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I'm suffering right now. I'm lonely and I feel pain in my heart. I don't like this. I don't want this, but it's just what it is right now. And if I patiently accept, then, that if we don't accept, what happens is we make it worse.
Yes.
Because it's like, it shouldn't be like this, Yeah. And so we just compound it with more painful feeling versus if we patiently accept and you think, okay, this is just how it is right now and it'll pass. But for now, this is how it is.
And honestly, I've stands the fact that when you do accept, things start getting better. Okay. I'm going to go into a little bit of philosophy and talk about the nature of the self and identity. How does Kadampa Buddhism explain this stuff?
I love that question. It has many different answers. And if we had, a week to talk, then maybe we could get into the very deep answer.
Yeah, books and books about it.
Yeah. But yeah, in a nutshell, we have many different roles in our life. So, for example, maybe you're a brother, you're a son. In some cases, you may be a dad, you may be an employee, you may be a boss. So in each of these scenarios, you're identifying with a different part of yourself, or a different self. So you're saying, I'm the brother, or I'm the son, I'm the father. We also identify with different states of mind. And when we're angry, I'm angry, or I'm relaxed, I'm intelligent, or if I'm handsome, or, there's all these different qualities. With the handsome, yeah. I remember what
identity. Sorry for that. Yeah.
No, sorry. Yeah. So, there's all these different selves that we identify with, and we think that that's me. When we're growing up, as a baby, we consider, well, I don't know how much we're thinking, but we relate to ourselves as a baby, as baby needs. So we cry when we're hungry, when we're sleepy, whatever. As we grow up, when we become a teenager, we relate to that teenage person that we are. As we become a young adult, we're relating to that. As we become an elderly person, we identify with being an elderly person. So there's so many different aspects of life and qualities that we can relate to as being part of self. there's not actually one that we can pin down. So what that means is ultimately there's no like set, solid, inherently existent self, because there's many different aspects that can make up what we identify as the self. Yeah. So it's, the thing is that the trouble is we do identify with there being a solid, real, existent I self. And that keeps us locked into who we think we are. But once we recognize that actually that self is a little bit made up, it's an illusion, then what do we really want to be? Where can we go? What can we do? The universe is our oyster. We can become an enlightened person if we want. We can do anything actually.
Yeah,
We're not fazed by who we think we are, because it's really ourself who's caging ourselves in. You know what I mean?
And honestly, every time it's like a label. Your name was given to you. Religion, whatever religion, you have some people are born into it. You just carry in the identity. So it's really not you picking what you identify as yourself as.
Yeah, exactly. And in Buddhism, we say, the things that appear like ourself it's just mere me. It's just like you say, like it's just a label.
Yeah.
We use that label to function in the world, but it's not set, solid. You can see it. It's fluid. It can change.
Buddhism, from the priest of temple, he was explaining that it wasn't really a religion; it's a way of life. Can you touch on that?
Well, my teacher Geshe Kelsang said. Somebody asked, what's religion? He said, it's something that makes you happy. And so when it's put into that, language, and when we think about it as something that makes you happy, I'd say absolutely Buddhism is just bullshit. But you're right, it is a way of life. It's a philosophy. It's something that, you integrate into your life, and then it shapes who you become. It takes you where you want to go.
Because it's a lot different from the traditional religions. It's nothing about yourself. It's about how you can help other people. So it's not about some reward that you're building up or something like that. So that's why it's been really intriguing for me.
So it is absolutely about others. It's very much others focused, but it's not denying that we also have an innate need to be happy. So what it does is it shows us the way to actually find deep and lasting happiness is through helping others. So it's like a win-win.
So helping others is helping yourself.
Absolutely. And it's something that's kind of easy to say in theory, but I think it's something we have to actually experience. And we do get some experience, small doses. So for example, say when we give something, and we don't expect anything in return, and we just give something to somebody because we know it's going to make them happy. We don't want them to give us anything in return. How do we feel? We usually feel really good. It's like, okay, take this, or we just, try and brighten somebody's day. We do it for them. How does that make us feel? It usually feels really good. So imagine that on like a huge scale, where every moment of our life, every breath we take is for others. And essentially that's, my understanding of what an enlightened being experiences. A Buddha would experience that, because that's their sole purpose for existing, is to be of benefit to others.
Now we've talked about anxiety, and you talked about attachment. So we'll touch on it a little bit more. Anger, attachment, and overthinking are constant challenges today, the modern day. What practical method or wisdom can people use quickly and in real time to reduce this mental states and return to calm, respond from a wiseness rather than just reacting to everything that happens about us? Me personally, I take a minute. If something happens, I try not to react immediately. I take out time to really weigh on the outcomes of every decision I'll make. And then it really improved my life. If it's a phone call, I call back, it's okay. I'll call you back in a minute and I hang up and think about it. And before calling back, that's my personal technique. What would you suggest for other people in this situation not to react instantly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're on to something there. Sort of giving yourself space between your reaction and whatever the situation is. It can always be very helpful. Like doing a breathing meditation can be very helpful. We have a practice where you can essentially imagine that your mind just turns to stone or a piece of wood. It's like you just block. It's like you just shut down. Like you don't physically shut down. You're still engaged with whatever, but mentally, it's like you just imagine that you just become a piece of wood or stone. It just kind of stops that whatever anger, anxiety, whatever it is that's starting to run out of control, it just stops it in its tracks. Anger, attachment, anxiety, these are all like superficial minds. It stops those superficial minds growing bigger.
And you do this mentally.
You do it mentally.
You freeze.
Yeah. It's like you mentally freeze.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what happens then is we have another level of mind that's a subtle mind that's more peaceful. And so that allows that to rise up, to manifest. And so then those superficial minds are also known as gross minds sort of can settle. And then they can come at it from a more peaceful point of view. So, I mean, that's immediate, like, you're talking about it. But I would say, I would caution that, we have a long history of getting angry, being anxious, overthinking. Everybody may be to a different degree, but habits take a while to break. And so, we have to be patient with ourselves too, and recognize that this is a long-term project to really overcome these difficult states of mind. I can immediately apply some of these techniques, but if I want to overcome these long-term, then this is a project. This is a long-term project, and there's three main points to do that, and that is to first recognize these difficult feelings or minds that we have, like anger and anxiety. So you're recognizing it. Because sometimes you don't even recognize, we just act. We don't even realize that that's what's happening. Yeah, so recognizing that that's what's happening. And then once we've recognized it, we seek to reduce it. And there's, depending on what the mind is, like anger, the opponent to anger is patience or love. So we recognize and we reduce it by instead working on our patience, working on our love, closing that deeper. And then finally abandon it. And ultimately abandoning any negative state of mind can be done through recognizing or realizing the true nature of reality, which is a very deep topic. I'll save that for another.
Totally agree. Yeah. Okay. Wasn't pretty little steps we can go into.
So recognize, reduce, and abandon.
Recognize, reduce, and abandon. I think recognize will be the tough one for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you're right. We don't realize it, do we?
Yeah. Okay, let's go into a little bit meditation, mindfulness, consciousness. First question, what's the difference between meditation and mindfulness? And what makes meditation truly effective, regardless of what's doing so?
Okay, so I'm just speaking from a Kadampa Buddhism point of view. Meditation, it's a focusing on a virtuous object, and that functions to make our mind peaceful and calm. So that can be done in formal meditation. When you close your eyes, so your back straight, and you're focusing on an object, a virtuous object. Also, in conjunction with formal meditation, we can do off-the-cushion meditation. So that means in daily life. And I think that might be something that is perhaps unique, or at least a very prominent feature of modern Buddhism, because, this is Buddhism for people in modern daily life. It's not for monks and nuns who are sitting in a cave somewhere. That's all they're doing is formally meditating. But it's for people with busy lives who have families and jobs and vacations and all the things. And so it's important to use that time because that takes up most of our life, those things. Use that time to hone our minds to develop the states of mind that we want, such as love, compassion, and wisdom. So it's like informal meditation or meditation off the cushion is when we're remaining focused on a positive state of mind. So say, for example, we get up in the morning, we do a 5 or 10 minute meditation on love, or we could we go back to what we were talking about earlier. Like today I'm going to see others and I'm going to think your happiness is important and I don't want you to suffer. And so we take that as our daily practice. Maybe we meditate on that and others just want to be happy and free from suffering. And then when we get up off our cushion and in our daily life, we think, okay, whenever I meet somebody, I'm going to be, your happiness matters, your freedom from suffering matters. And so then that becomes our daily meditation. And because that's something that our minds become familiar with, then it becomes more and more natural for us to think like that. First, it's like an effort. Because our mind's just going to go down routes that it always goes down, thinking this and that and whatever. But if we're training our mind, it's like meditation is you're focusing. It's like that's where we're gaining control over where our mind goes, as opposed to it going wherever it wants to go. So that is what meditation is. And then mindfulness is remembering. So it's like, okay, I'm going to meditate on this today. So during our meditation, our mindfulness is this aspect of our mind that's like, remember, you're focusing on that. You're not making your grocery list now. Remember, you're not listening to the dog barking next door. You're focusing on love. So it's this little, voice that's like,
it keeps you on track.
Stay focused. And so then also in our daily life as well, maintaining that remembrance. Oh yeah, I'm thinking about love today. I'm thinking about others today. That's the mindfulness aspect.
I think that kind of answers the next question I have. In the beginning level, when one tries to meditate to change your habits, I faced in my experience when I started learning meditation and practicing, there's an inner resistance. It's hard to stay focused. It's distractions, things coming to your mind. And, it looks easy, but it's really, really it's easy to watch people do it, but when you try it, you find out it's really keep your mind still is a very difficult thing to do. So how does Kadampa Buddhism approach wandering minds and resistance without judgment? How can we overcome that?
Yeah, it's like anything. And it's funny because people do come to the classes in the center and we do meditation, and then maybe they say, I've tried meditating and I was no good at it. And so I'm not a meditator. I'm like, wait, you tried once. So I think of it like this. Like if you wanted to run a marathon and you put your shoes on and you just go out and you try and run 20 whatever miles and you collapse and you're like, oh, I'm not good at this. Like, yeah, you got to train, So it's the same with meditation. It just takes time and training. And there's certainly techniques to help with keeping your mind focused. One is really making a determination at the beginning of your meditation. Like, I'm going to use this meditation. I'm going to use this time to really stay focused. So only we can decide that. Nobody can be hitting us over the back, meditate, stay focused. We have to do that ourselves. So we have to be I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to stay focused. So, of course, at the beginning, we won't, because it's the nature of our mind to move. And so we can employ what we call, this is called a mental factor called alertness. So together with mindfulness and alertness, these two are mental factors that can be helping us to stay on track when we're meditating. So what alertness does, it's like a little spy. It's hanging out in the back of our minds. So we're sitting there, we're meditating, and we're like, okay, I'm meditating on love. And then we start like drifting, like, oh, I might have some pizza. And the spy, the alertness is like, start sounding the alarm. It's like, uh-oh, going off track. And it lets the mindfulness know. It's like, hey, she's losing it here. And so mindfulness jumps in. It's like, okay, let's get back on track. And so then you just go back to that meditation. And in Kadampa Buddhism, we have what we call there's two stages of meditation. There's the contemplative aspect or the analytical aspect where we're thinking and reasoning, and then there's the placement or the holding of the object. So we're thinking about why do I need to love others? Why do I need to cherish them? Thinking all these reasons. Well, they're just like me. They want to be free from suffering. They want to be happy like me. And then you come to this determination, like, oh, yes, I'm going to cherish others. I'm going to love others. And that's your placement. That's your determination. So that's what you're trying to hold in meditation, that object, like loving others. And so then when your mind starts to wander to, having pizza for lunch, then your alertness says, nope, nope, nope. And then mindfulness is like, okay, go back. And so then sometimes we can't just jump right back into thinking about love and meditating on love, but we need to like go through that contemplation again, building up to that determination. And that's okay. That's actually very normal. And we should expect to have many sessions of that in one meditation. Like say you do a 15-minute meditation, you could do that maybe 20 times. And that's okay. And I think that's the thing is we need to give ourselves permission, to do that and not have these high expectations of ourselves to just suddenly be this incredible yogi that can hold this object for hours at a time, because that's just not realistic. But if we do it, gradually, steadily, and employ these techniques, then over time, we'll get better. Some days will be better than others, and that's fine. And also, I think what helps with distraction in formal meditation is this idea of doing informal meditation, off the cushion. Means if we're holding that object throughout our day, like we're thinking about love, then when we sit down to meditate, it's not going to be so foreign to us because we've been thinking about it a lot. So we sit down and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I understand that. That's familiar to me. And then we're able to go to our object easier.
Okay. I have this in my mind. I wanted to ask, what is that state like when you get to that point of not being distracted? What does it feel like? Euphoric? What's I always wonder.
Yeah, well, there's a actual technical term for it when you have this state of perfect concentration, tranquil abiding. And sounds really nice.
Yes. Yeah.
And apparently it's very, very blissful.
One.
Yeah. It's like you're just so content, you're so happy, like you wouldn't be distracted to the world because you're in that state. You're able to just focus, single point.
That is something to shoot for.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think we have a lot of questions answered. This is a signature Qualia podcast question we ask every guest, and I like to hear from one perspective. In your words, what is consciousness, and what does it mean to you personally?
Because it encompasses essentially everything that's surrounding Buddhism, like what Buddhism is about. Consciousness, technically, it's what we call a primary. So it's a mentality. It's an essential aspect of a person, right? And it's the consciousness that we always have. We come into this life, but it doesn't last forever. We leave the body behind, but our consciousness does not die. Consciousness is something that goes with us from life to life. And we can understand this a little bit better by understanding the levels of mind. So we kind of touched on these levels of mind earlier when I was talking about like the superficial minds, like the gross mind. So you can also understand that as like our waking minds, like right now. So we look around, we're relating to the world as, when we're awake. When we go to sleep at night, for example, this world disappears and the dream world appears to our subtle mind. And then when we go into deep sleep, the dream mind disappears and it's our very subtle mind that manifests. And it's our very subtle mind that is our actual, you could say self, right? The self that we take from life to life. Is that consciousness that leaves the body, we go from life to life. So the other more superficial minds are just temporary. So that's why probably we don't remember our previous lives because they were more temporary minds that were manifest for most of that life. However, it's our very subtle mind that never dies and that we take with us wherever we go. Like that's essentially us. And that's also, I started to this in there, is the whole premise behind Buddhism. Of course, it's to make our life better, to, make it more meaningful. But ultimately, it's to attain our human potential, which is, say, enlightened state. It's like full inner development, the highest you can develop your mind to, that kind of state is the enlightened state. And we have that potential on our very soul mind. So it's not this human body, when we become enlightened, become a Buddha, that's going to suddenly transform into some enlightened being, because this is temporary. It's our very subtle mind that will transform into that of an enlightened being.
Awesome. What?
Very deep, I know.
Yeah. But is it also like our consciousness being a part of a bigger ocean of consciousness? So, like you said, it's an individual that we move, that goes with us to different lives.
Yeah, I mean, we each have our own individual awareness. Yeah, but absolutely, we're all completely interconnected, vast body of life.
Yeah. Okay. As we draw to the end of this, we'd really love you to guide us through a quick 1-minute meditation for steadying the mind.
Okay, so we'll just find a comfortable meditation posture. So you want to have your back relatively straight, but not tense. You rest your hands in your lap. You let your eyes partially close. And just take a few moments to begin to relax your body and your mind. Allowing any stress or tension you might be holding to begin to fall away. And you can generate a positive motivation for engaging in the meditation so that it will bring benefit to ourselves and to everyone around us. We can turn our attention to our breath. Just breathing normally. Comfortably through our nose. We focus our attention on the sensation of our breath as it enters and leaves our nose. You can imagine as we breathe out, we're breathing out any negativity, any painful feeling, any stress or tension. We just breathe it out in the form of smoke. It leaves our nose and disappears far into space. And as we breathe in, we imagine we're breathing in, inspiring energy. Fills our body with light and energy. Gradually, our mind will become more peaceful, more calm. You can just enjoy any sense of peace that we feel. Understanding that this is some true nature in our mind. Very peaceful, calm, pure. And then when we rise from meditation, we try and maintain this peaceful feeling and allow it to inform everything that we feel say fully. And when we're ready, we can rise from meditation and open our eyes.
That was so. And mindfulness is work it all the time. Keep me focused.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
So where can the listeners and viewers find your classes and businesses or attend events in Georgia?
Yeah, so we are in Inland Park in Atlanta, and we have live stream classes on Sundays and Wednesday evening, in person and online. So if you don't want to get through traffic and deal with traffic, you can watch from home. You can find us at meditationingeorgia.org, our website. And then if you want to know more about Kadampa Buddhism or modern Buddhism, we have actually modern Buddhism podcast online on YouTube.
Yeah. Just one temple here or?
Yeah, so we have the one center here in Atlanta, and we have a branch up in Chattanooga, and then we have many centers all over the U.S. and around the world. Our sister centers, we have one in Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and down in Florida. So wherever you're traveling, you can just Google Kadampa and see if there's one where you are.
Awesome. All right. That brings us to the end. Thank you, Kelsang Dechok.
Thank you
for sharing such grounded clarity and wisdom with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming today. And hopefully we can get you in some other time in the future so you can talk more and get into the self a little bit more.
Yeah.
And consciousness too.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Qualia Experience Podcast. Kadampa, modern Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, and clarity. Finding peace in a chaotic world. We hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed producing it. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe to stay connected. Until next time, stay healthy, and thank you for being a part of our podcast journey.